and a very good morning. So hopefully all of you are doing well and you have eaten your breakfast and you're feeling well right after Muet. So this is the part where I say there is life after Muet, darlings. I repeat, there is life after Muet. So in terms of life after Muet here is we are going to focus more on you preparing yourself for university life. So in the second semester, the syllabus is more on your mental preparation, physical and oral presentation for the for university, because as mentioned in university there are a lot of presentations. So when there are a lot of presentations, this is the part where you have to be prepared, especially in terms of oral presentation. Now in the first semester it's a kind of a different feeling because it is only oral. It's only because we don't meet each other. You are not in front of a class to present whatever that you are required to present, so the feeling is not there. However, with hopes that this pandemic will be reduced, this pandemic will be gone. Okay, so with hopes. So this is the part where I say that we have to be prepared. Now, even though, let's say for the oral presentation later, um, let's say we can't predict the future, if let's say you still are required to present via online, you also have to be prepared in terms of presenting a good PowerPoint presentation. You have to know the basics on how to present a good PowerPoint presentation, to attract the examiner, to attract the lecturer, your lecturers later on, as well as to gain marks for creativity and effort. So yeah, whatever it is all presentation, because in terms of the in university, it's basically the same thing, meaning that half of your 60 to 70 marks will be for your assignments and group work, and the rest will be your test. So this is the thing here. For the second semester, we will be reshuffling. I repeat, we will be reshuffling the groups so that you'll be having a fresh start. So you'll be having, let's just say you'll be able to um, socialize more, not only with the same group of people, you'll be able to socialize better. So please do, in the second semester, this group, the assignment for the second semester is really whatever group assignments lah. It really requires your cooperation. If you think that the first semester punya grouping or assignment is a bit difficult, where susah nak jumpa, suruh panggil untuk discussion pun tak turun-turun ataupun tak reply messages, imagine for this semester lagilah nak kena buat product promotion. But then again, for account students, I don't think you have a problem, because basically it is something which in a way you should be well versed with, which is product promotion, promoting a product. However, this is in English. Tapi this semester your batch is all, everything is in English, if I'm not mistaken. So if for economy or for account, I think you also have to prepare a presentation in English. So basically English, you can't run away from English. Nak cari jodoh yang baik pun, you have to know English, because basically I don't know about you, but then again, basically to get a good, well-educated jodoh, because this is your turn. So basically, when you are, don't you think that when someone that you meet later on in the future or at your same age, when you see somebody who is able to speak English, they seem sexier? Or they seem more attractive. So basically later on you are going to be future professionals in the future. You're going to be accountants, you're going to be business finance manager, you'll be dealing with all the dato, tan sri or whatever, and you'll be dealing with a lot of professionals, higher senior ranking professionals. So you have to show yourself. You can't shy away by saying in bahasa, because if you want to gain that higher salary, you have to be able to communicate well, and one of the way for you to be able to communicate well is via English, meaning that you show that you are serious with your presentation, or you're serious with your work and so forth, so that it will gain you that higher appraisal, meaning that when you are being appraised, dapat yearly assessment. Then because when if you are in the private sector, your increment salary, your salary increment is different from your friend. It all depends on your appraisal. If you have a good assessment by your supervisors or by your bosses, you'll be getting a higher percentage of the increment. Unless you feel that you want to work in government increment is no matter how much you do or how less you do, you're still getting that the same amount of increment. So it's either or future planning. But I do hope that most of my students will be pursuing private sector because it gives you more salary, especially for those of you who plans um to want to have higher salary. So especially for the boys in the class, you have to think because you will be the imam of your family one day. Everything has to be on you one day. All the utility bills and everything else, the house, whatever bills, it is all on you, people. So yeah, start practicing your English proficiency. So right now, what is going to happen for this hour? It is going to be writing. Again, gentle reminder on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Teacher won't be around because I'll be with the speaking test and so forth. So teacher won't be around. So this is the part. Again, gentle reminder. Jangan tiba-tiba because sometimes even though I mention in class that I won't be around, ada je yang tiba-tiba mention, teacher hari ni ada kelas online ke? I was like, hmm. I don't know. So like yesterday, okay, let's just focus on the lesson. Okay, so let us focus on the lesson. Let me share my screen. And let me switch off the camera. Let me share my screen. Okay, this is now for this hour. It is going to be a bit dry. Dry maksudnya it may be a bit boring. So please do deal with me, be with me because anyway it's very important. Obviously, whatever that you learn is going to be very important. Okay, let me share the screen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay. Okay. So for this second semester for week 4, I'm sure in a way, basically, it seems as if the learning standards are the same. Yeah, the learning standard is the same. But then again, the content of the learning standard is different. Okay. For this week, you are required to know and understand on how to write a detailed description of a complex process. A detailed description of a complex process. Okay. So what is a complex process? But first of all, let us understand what is a process. Okay, kenapa benda ni keluar? What is a process? Let's see. What is a process? A process is a series of actions. Fundamentally, the description of an action fundamentally is from coming from the word fundamental, which is asas ataupun yang paling penting. So process is a series of actions. Fundamentally, the description of an action, meaning that yang paling utama, fundamentally here means yang paling utama, the description of an action. So process, description of an action which you're required to write. Now, it examines an event over time. It does not tell the reader what to do. Rather, it describes how something happens step by step in a systematic and logical order. Basically, it is a report. You have to write a report and what you observe, what you see. Process description means writing about how something is made or something happens. It is usually written in the passive form or in the passive voice, meaning that whatever you see, whatever that you can visually see, that is what you report. And that meaning that benda tu dah dilihat. So basically that is why it is written in the passive form. The goal of a process description is to provide a general introduction of how something works. Okay, general introduction. Therefore, use concise sentences or concise phrases while writing a process description, and the facts should be in a clear and concise manner without any personal estimation. Bermaksud that when you write, when you describe a complex process, or when you want to write it, you have to ensure that your sentences tu adalah padat, pendek, tak merapu-rapu macam writing an essay, pendek, padat, clear, concise, and also without any personal estimation, bermaksud tak ada pendapat sendiri. It's not based on your own opinion, it is based on what you can see. What you see is what you get, is what you write. Okay, no personal opinion. So for example, tea is always refreshing. Given below is the process for making tea. Write down the process. This is just a simple explanation to show what is a process, how to describe a process. For example, here, boil one. You'll be given this information. Boil 1 cup of water in a vessel. Vessel here macam kettle ke. We call it as a vessel. Kenapa kata vessel, teacher, bukannya kettle? Is because vessel ni macam container. Tak kisahlah container tu teapot ke, kettle ke, apa ke. It's called a vessel. Okay. So basically, reverse. And then add 1 teaspoon of leaves to it. Strain the brew into a cup. Brew here adalah apa yang anda telah letak, kan? Brew adalah air yang telah di-boil. Okay, yang especially di-boil dengan sesuatu benda yang telah boil in bahasa apa? Boil, didih. Air yang telah dididihkan dengan sesuatu, dengan benda lain. Contohnya yang ni 1 teaspoon of leaves, and then strain the brew into a cup. So brew here is air yang telah dididih tadi. Strain bermaksud, kalau is it in bahasa yang pakai jaring-jaring tu? What is it in bahasa sayang?
Menapis.
Thank you so much for responding. Strain, menapis daun-daun tu, and half cup of milk and sugar to taste and stir thoroughly. Bukannya thoroughly ni dengan sekata. Stir thoroughly dengan sekata dan betul. Now, first, and then serve, hidangkan. So basically, how would you describe this process? What we expect to describe this process is where you make it into a concise sentence, a concise manner. For example, firstly, 1 cup of water is boiled in a vessel. Dia gunakan firstly because itu adalah step yang pertama. So you have to use linkers. You have to make it coherent. Coherent ni bermaksud daripada satu idea kepada satu idea adalah jelas, satu idea kepada satu idea adalah teratur. Then 1 teaspoon of leaf is added to it. Let the tea brew along with water and rest it for 5 minutes. Tengok kat sini tak ada pun sebut 5 minutes. But then again, this is where you add your own information. You add an information which you observe. Now, 5 minutes is not your personal opinion. 5 minutes is what was done. You did let it rest for 5 minutes. So basically, it is your observation, not your opinion. Next, the brew is strained into a cup. Lastly, as per taste. Look at the phrase here, as per taste. Half cup milk and sugar or lemon juice with sugar is added and stirred thoroughly. Finally, tea is served. Okay, so this is basically what you call it as describing a process. Does it seem easy? Senang kan? So this is the basic of it. So, however, as mentioned, this is just the basic. That is only a simple process being described, not yet considered as a complex process. Ding, ding, ding. So basically, in our everyday life, we tend to gloss over the complexities of things. Now, the phrase here, we tend to gloss over, bermaksud kita bertendensi untuk memikirkan over the complexity of things. Macam for example, when we turn a car ignition, this is basically when we start a car, write a draft of a story, play board game or cook a meal, we pay attention only to the external appearances of things. Kita hanya observe dan report benda yang kita hanya nampak, external appearances of things. However, you can't write well unless you can explain the complex processes. This is just the simple basic. Okay, now next, being able to write and describe complex processes is important no matter which field you are in, medical engineering, arts and language, or even finance and business. Because no matter what, especially like if you want to be an accountant in actual science or whatnot, basically you have to know on how to write a process. The process of withdrawing money, or the process of, if it's in your field, it is in your field, okay? Now we move on to describing complex process. What is a complex process? A complex process is a system of separate series of events or relationships which somehow relate to each other and create a larger whole. Meaning, it is kind of like basically describing a complex process is a complex process has streams of processes, meaning different parts. If you can describe an action, then you should be able to describe a complex process. Just think of the complex process as a collection of related actions. For example, to describe an action, we say in effect, okay? First, then, and finally, to describe a complex process, we describe 3 or 4 or more actions. Usually, when we have a complex process in mind that we need to do a report on, or which we need to write upon, you have to divide or separate the complex process in different parts. For example, we use the example of, you want to describe the complex process of a political campaign. You might or you can break it down into, for example, mastering the issues and developing a platform. You use sentences such as first, then, and finally. Okay? Fundraising and pursuing elite support, because when you want to pursue a political career, obviously you need to have elite support. So how do you pursue these elite people? Polling and advertising. Polling ni bermaksud election, undian, and advertising and how you promote yourself. Campaigning, obviously, and public events. What are the public events which you plan to join or make an appearance of? So as we describe those separate parts, we might note when one part affects the others. So as you can see, when you have a complex process which you need to describe, tak kisahlah dalam bidang ekonomi ke, account ke, business admin ke, benda yang sama, even though you are in science stream, masuk perubatan ke apa, it is basically the same concept. Everybody will have to know on how to be able to describe and write a complex process. So when you have a complex process which you are required to describe, you break it down. You break it down where you put the processes in different parts, like body paragraph lah. When you put it into different parts, then you explain each different part using linkers. So, and then as you separate it into different parts, you will notice that how one part affects the other. One part affects the other, where it affects each other. So besides describing each part of the process, we also need to capture the unifying theme, meaning that by the end of the process, what is the theme that you want to present? As you elaborate, as you elaborate on the processes, as you describe the processes, what is the theme that you use? You must have a theme. You can have a theme, but because it shows focus, it shows organization, it shows well planned. So you must have a unifying themes. For example, not just with campaign, but with all such description of complex processes, we need to answer the question, soalan apa yang perlu kita tanya pada diri sendiri? For example, what gives a campaign coherence or prevents it from gaining coherence? Bermaksud, coherence here bermaksud kesinambungan satu benda dengan secara teratur, organized campaign, for example. So when you want to write, you have to bear in mind, ask the question, what gives a campaign coherence or prevents maksudnya menghalang ia from gaining coherence. When you want to do your report, what gives an audit report coherence or prevents it from gaining coherence? So it's basically the same thing. When you want to do a report, when you want to describe a complex process, you think coherence. How does it make it, what gives the report or the complex process which you are required to describe about coherence? Maksudnya macam mana nak buat dia teratur, explain, tulis secara teratur. So the elements of a process, for example here, to begin any process description, start by identifying all the pieces of the process. Meaning that, as mentioned just now, you are given a complex process for you to elaborate on. So you start by identifying all the pieces of the process, meaning that you break it down. I repeat, you break it down. By naming and defining these elements, you make it easier to explain how they relate to each other. Like macam campaign tadi, when you break it down, sebab kadang-kadang complex process tu is basically that, it's complex. So daripada stress tak tentu arah, you break it down into different parts and then you try to link each part with each other. Most complex processes have different kinds of processes. So the point is to break things down into the simplest components parts so that you're able to explain better, making sure to define the parts and then to show how they interact. So again, whatever process that you are required to explain, bersabar, jangan tension, you break it down into several parts, concise parts, so that you'll be able to explain each part better and obviously more organized and neat way where you say firstly and then finally. So simple. And then you move on to the next part for you to explain. Now, do understand that describing a complex process is not an analysis. It's very different from, not to say very different, it's different from an analysis. So do not be confused with the description of a complex process with an analysis. It may seem familiar, but because both show you how the world works. However, they often show casuality, but they differ about the levels of certainty and universality. Bermaksud, but they differ about the levels of certainty and universality. Here di mana in terms of an analysis, it is where you also make predictions and you also make what do you call that thing, hypothesis ni taja. In terms of describing a complex process, you only describe what you see je, what you observe je. So basically the difference here is process pieces tend to focus modestly on specific one and only streams of events. They say, in effect, this is what I see. Meaning you only describing a complex process is just you explaining what you see only visually. However, analysis piece tend to focus on general many times over phenomena. They say, in effect, this doesn't just happen once or twice, it happens predictably over and over. This is your jangkaan. You make predictions, you make hypothesis. That is analysis. Yang as you can see for process, it is just apa yang anda nampak, itu yang anda present. Tapi kalau analysis piece, you make jangkaan. They say, in effect, this doesn't just happen once or twice, it happens predictably over and over. So that is the difference between process and analysis. Tapi kalau a bit confused, jangan risau. You just focus on describing the complex piece. Jangan memberi your own opinion. Now, describing a complex process, it is a report, not arguing. It is not a debate. A description of a complex process is a kind of reporting job involving careful observation as mentioned just now. A description of a process description does not necessarily show what causes what. It simply lays out what can be observed, what happens and in what setting and in what sequence. So basically overall, when we master writing about process, we combine the mind of a scientist with the soul of a poet. Meaning, because obviously, why is it a mind of a scientist or an accountant? Either or, because it is not language. Mind of a scientist or an accountant in terms of business terms, because of obviously you account students, you have business terms which the science students are unfamiliar with, vice versa. So this is the part whenever you're able to combine the mind of an accountant or a businessman with the soul of a poet, that means you are able to master the writing process. Meaning that sometimes there are some accountant or business, they know the process, but they do not know how to explain. However, if you're good, you are able to master a writing process. That means that you are having a mind of a scientist and a soul of a poet. Meaning because poet here is seseorang yang membuat sajak, because obviously a poet writes poetry or poems due to what they observe. Okay, so hence that is why this quote is written. So now how do we describe a process in writing? There are 5 aspects of describing a process of for academic writing. Eh, eh. Firstly, rewriting the introduction. Secondly, using present simple and passive tenses. Thirdly, using linking words. Fourthly, writing an overview. And lastly, you add additional information. We are going to go through part by part, one by one. First, we will refer to this question. Now, for some of you who plan to do IELTS, maksudnya nak belajar luar negara ke apa, you have to right for the writing paper part 1, it is involving describing a process. So this is one of the question from IELTS. The diagram shows the stages involved in the process of making leather goods. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So basically, for IELTS or whatever complex processes or whatever processes, they will give you diagrams or information for you to describe on and write describe the complex process in your words. As mentioned just now, rewrite the introduction. Rewrite the introduction is so simple. Basically, you just use the title. You just use the title of the question, the title of the diagram, and to make it into a clear introduction. Just rewrite the introduction. For example, the images illustrate the steps involved in the production of leather goods. You just rewrite the title of the diagram, the instruction of the diagram, but in a way you use your own words. You use your own words. For example, here, where's my cursor? The diagram shows the images illustrate the stages, the steps involved in the process, involved in the production of making leather goods, So as you can see, when you want to write a report, whatever report that is given to you, whatever the title here is, in order, you need to retain the original meaning. So when you retain the original meaning, you identify phrases, ayat-ayat ataupun perkataan-perkataan, or phrases or words which you are able to use synonyms with. Most importantly is you in a way preserve the content of the diagram. Contohnya, the content of the diagram is process of making leather goods. Making leather goods, not buying leather goods. So basically, this is just to ensure that no matter how your introduction here is, you have to separate it into parts, greetings, and then you ask questions. And lastly, number 4 is where you be the receptionist or the person manning the counter, where whether diorang tak puas hati ke apa ke, you are in charge to calm them down. So this is correct. However, this is a safe option as it keeps the same sentence structure. It is the same option. So, tak ada lebih. Kalau nak katakan, kalau nak ikutkan berdasarkan band 3, 4, 5 ke apa, ni sekadar band 3 penjawapan sahaja. Because it is just basically the same structure and the introduction is just switching the synonyms. You could also use a more complex sentence structure, change the word order and use the verb in the passive. For example here, contohnya, the diagram illustrates how animal skins. How do I know about animal skins? Tengok pada images. Ni kata, tang-tang-tang, animal skin. Processed in order to produce a range of leather items such as shoes, handbags, and toys. So how do you know that? It is in the diagram, it's in the images. So in a way, you can predict what these are. So you can say all this leather and animal skin is being processed to be made into this. Look at the words being used: factory, water, lime, washing, lime, soaking, flattening, tannin, water and vegetable matter, soaking, polishing, masuk dalam lori, hantar ke kilang, jadilah binatang ni semua. Now let's look at example 2. The illustration depicts, let's look at the vocabulary there, the numerous steps, again, low frequency words there, involved in the treatment of animal skins before they are turned into leather products such as handbags and shoes. So as in a way, the introduction is you overall in implying or showing to the examiner, showing to the reader what it is all about, what your letter is all about. So well done here. Where's my cursor? Okay. So again, gentle reminder, do not use any opinion or any external background facts. Background fact external or background facts ni bermaksud the animal skin macam mana cakap background facts is lembu tu daripada mana, lembu siapa, berapa ribu bayar, tak payah. Secondly is the usage of passive tense. Passive tense, because this is very important. As you can see in the diagram, there are verbs, or there are action verbs which are given: drying, washing, soaking, flattening, soaking again, polishing, and so forth. So in a way, when you are given verbs, clearly showing verbs, kata kerja. So when you write, you use the passive tense. For example, the skins are dry, the skin is dry, the skins are polished, the leather is polished. So basically, when to use the verb tense, you have to have nouns ataupun kata nama. Now, it says here animal skin. The skins are dry, the skin is dry. Teacher, yang mana satu betul? Are ke is? It all depends on you. It all depends on you how you want to write the subject of the matter, subject of the question. Now, you can always use plural noun. You can always use plural singular noun. However, if you were to use plural noun, make sure that you save it as singular noun, plural verb. Contohnya, the skins are dried. If you want to write it as a singular noun, make sure that you write the verb in the singular verb. The skin is dried. So either or, the skins are polished, the leather is polished. Padahal, if you look at the image, it is ing, polishing, soaking, washing, flattening. Semua guna perkataan continuous tense, verb. However, when you want to write a report to describe the process, you have to use it in the passive tense form. So this is basically a quick review of passive tenses, where you have the subject or the thing, you have the be, or this is the root word of the word is and are, and then you have the past participle, meaning perkara yang sedang berlaku tapi telah berlaku. Kata kerjanya telah berlaku. Meaning that when you say leather is dried, you are referring it to the current situation, is dried. Tapi kenapa DRID, past participle, is maksudnya benda tu memang telah dikeringkan pun, tapi pada waktu jangka masa sekarang. So basically that is why the answer is S and is and not the answer is and not B ke apa. Leather is dried. Bukannya leather is drying. Skins are drying. No. Because you want to report a process which has happened. So kena guna passive tense ataupun what we call as present participle. So as you can see, the words in purple are the participles, and the word in orange is to change this verb depending on the situation given. So is and are adalah be adalah kata akar untuk is and are. So whenever that you see this, you have to change it into is ataupun are. So these are the basics of a passive participle tense. Passive participle tense. Present participle tense. The bottle is discarded. The bottles are picked up. They are taken to the recycling plant. The bottles are washed. They are sent to another machine. They are shredded into small pieces. The shredded pieces go into the extruder. The pieces are turned into pallets. The pallets are used to make new items. So as you can see, present participle, benda yang tengah di-explain ataupun dijelaskan pada waktu sekarang, tapi kata kerja itu telah berlaku. So present participle. Now below are links for further practices on the usage of passive tense and other related tenses. Click on the below. So basically whatever If you want to have further practice, please do have further practice on your present participle as well as your main idea from the Google. So please do refer to the videos. Click on videos. There are videos in here, especially here. So please do click on the pictures in order for you to fulfill the exercises. Remember, people, practice makes progress. So let's look at number 3, the linking words. Linking words are very important because it shows or it links each sentences or each paragraph conveniently. I repeat, conveniently. Don't choose a different linking word for the start of every sentences. Use some of the middle. For example, here, the process of which weather is treated, the liquid in which the skin are soaked, the place where the skins are flattened. So these are the usage of linking words. Okay, now let's look at the two versions on how you can explain this process. Version 1. Okay, asyik dengar suara teacher je. Let's see who is online. Harith Iskandar, are you there? Harith Iskandar, are you there? Dah tertidur ke anak-anak ni? Harith Iskandar, are you there? Harith Iskandar once. Harith Iskandar twice. Are you there? Harith Iskandar 3 times. Tak ada. Hey. Akmal. Akmal. Akmal apa nama?
Yes, madam.
Okay, can you read this out, sayang? The first version. Thank you, Akmal, for still being with me. Boleh nampak tak, sayang?
Yes, madam.
Okay, please read, Akmal.
The skin is dry, then it is taken to a factory. In the factory, it is washed in water and lime, then soaked in lime and flattened and submerged in tannin. After that, it is polished and taken to another factory. In the factory, it is turned into leather goods.
Well done. Good reading, Akmal. Thank you so much. God bless you, sayang. Okay, so as you can see, this is the first version of how we can explain, how we can describe the process. However, as you can see, it is very simple, even though it's accurate, but it is a little bit mechanical, short, macam so cold. Okay, so now let's read version 2. Version 2, let me hear from, let me hear from Nurul Huda. Are you there?
Yes, miss.
Okay, can you please read out version 2?
In the initial stage of the process, the skin is dry before being taken to a factory where it undergoes two treatments. Firstly, it is washed with water and lime, followed by soaked in lime and then flattened, after which it is submerged in tannin.
Okay, thank you Nurul Huda. Nurul Huda, I would like to ask, how do you pronounce this? Read this part.
In the initial stage,
Okay, we pronounce it as initial. Okay?
Okay, miss.
Okay, say it again. Say the word again, initial.
Initial stage.
Okay, so because again, as I mentioned, you people are going to be professional in the future. So good reading. Well done, Huda. That was beautiful reading. So now we know that this pronunciation is initial. Okay, now next, can I have the last body paragraph there? Let me see. No. Reverse. Let me see. Let me choose. Najwa Maisara,
Yes, Miss.
can you read the last stage here?
The last stage involves polishing the leather with a roller. The pieces are subsequently transported to a processing factory where they
Transported.
transported
Mhm.
to a processing factory where they are made into a number of items in preparation for shipping.
Okay, well done. In preparation, where they are made. The A bunyi macam A, where they are made into a number of items. So beautiful. Well done. Thank you, darling. Najwa Maisara. Good reading there. Okay, so now let's continue with our presentation. So basically, this is version 1 and then this is version 2. So which one do you think is better? Which sounds better? Ada siapa nak respond ke? Which one sounds better? Seems better. 9:55. Okay.
Version 2, madam.
Can, thank you so much for responding. Yes, version 2. So this is the part where, now why version 2 sounds better? Because as you can see, there are linking words to make the complex process sounds better. Now, as you can see here, rather than using the word firstly, it uses the phrase in the initial stages, because the word firstly is being used to indicate that there are two treatments. So in order to describe the two treatments, they describe the first treatment and then flatten, after which it is submerged in tannin. So as you can see, the importance of linking words can make a simple mechanical sentences or paragraph sounds even better. Even for your speaking test as well, you need to have proper linking words. So yeah, I will give this later. I will give this slides in your Google Classroom later. So overview. So this is the part where overview basically in describing a complex process situation is a conclusion. Secara keseluruhan, anda punya kesimpulan apa yang telah anda describekan tu, kesimpulannya apa yang anda dapat. So overall, you must have the linker overall. The diagram shows that many items can be made from leather. Very simple, very simple. However, it is too obvious, too vague, and there is no analysis. You need to say something noticeable about the process. Something noticeable is apa yang hasilnya apa in a way. Hasilnya apa yang kita nampak. For example, cuba tengok example 1. Can I have, because can I have Daniel Lim? Can you help me read the first example? Ahmad Daniel Lim, are you there?
Daniel ni go to toilet, madam.
Okay, Haris Iskandar ada lagi?
Haris Iskandar is mission and action.
Okay, Syami tolong bacakan sayang. Syami?
Okay, madam. Overall, the diagram indicates that it is necessary for animal skin to undergo several treatments before they can be made into everyday household item. The process is still a complex and lengthy one despite being mostly done by machinery rather than by hand.
Well done, beautiful. Thank you, Syahmi. So as you can see, that is the sample. As you can see, the information are more precise and are there. Now, next example 2. Can I have Nelly? Is Nelly there?
Yes, Miss.
Can you read out, Nelly? Okay, I have 2 minutes more.
Overall, the diagram illustrates that even though the process is of treating animal skins so that they can be made into everyday household items, is done mostly in factories with the help of machinery. It is still lengthy and
Machinery.
complex, involving several stages.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Do you have a class after this? Ami, Nelly, do you have another class after this?
Yes, madam. Math class.
Okay. Let me just end this. Okay, so basically I'll give you the PowerPoint slides. However, my focus is more on because I do not want to take your maths lecturer's time, because if people take my time as well, I would be annoyed. So these are practices which you can do to improve on your vocabulary, especially for you people yang buat yang ni. Yang ni work and business, this involves your field, your course. So cuba buat ni. I will give this all information on in Google Classroom. So please do take note. Okay, anak-anak? So it's 9:59 already. Please do not forget to fill in your attendance. So again, for this semester, you have to learn regarding process, describing a complex process. So I'll give this for you to go through it again and for you to do the lessons here. So thank you, darlings. I'll see you when I see you. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, madam.
Welcome.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, madam.
Miss.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Welcome.
Bye.